And good evening, everyone. Welcome to In Studio Live, the 47th edition. This is week 45 of doing the live streams, and welcome to the show. And thanks for joining me on this, well, here in Stockport anyway, this cold, wet winter's evening. So let's just get a move on, shall we? And let's get on with the show. So if you are new here, and there's one name I've spotted which may be new, not a regular, but if you are new, perhaps watching this on the replay, because I know not everyone can tune in at 7:30 on a Wednesday night, and I know from last week plenty of people watched on the replay. If you're one of them, well, first of all, if you're new and you've just found this by accident or whatever, just take a moment and hit the subscribe button and the bell, and you'll get notified of everything else that's going on the channel. New videos coming out regularly each week, and the 2 live streams. But if you can just hit the subscribe button for me. If you are watching on the replay, then please pop a comment in the comments down below, just so that I know you've watched it, because that encourages me to know that people are actually watching it on there, because I never trust the YouTube stats. They do seem to be a bit all over the show at times. And do make the point of hitting the like button. That tells the YouTube algorithm that this is a video worth watching, and therefore they'll present it to other people, and that helps. It also encourages me as well. So if you could do that for me, that would be really great. Thanks very much. And again, as ever, I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been sharing the links to the shows, both the Sunday night one and the Wednesday night one. I really appreciate that. Thank you for doing it, and hopefully it's bringing a few people in. Right, so if you don't know the format of the shows, we're twice weekly now. Sunday nights, I'm going to be predominantly doing tutorial and Q&A stuff. So last Sunday I went through a lot of techniques to do with photography in the snow and getting your exposures right, including looking at histograms and exposure compensation and things like that. And then the Wednesday shows are going to be focused primarily on feedback, me looking at your images and giving you specific feedback on them. If they're good, I will say so. If they're not, I will also say so. So be warned. But I do try to do it in a nice way and in a constructive way on there. And in case you don't know, they do sit on YouTube for quite a while. So if you miss one, go catch it on the replay. They will be there for a while. Then eventually the full versions moves over into my academy, and I start putting extracts onto YouTube. And if you come back to the channel tomorrow night at 7:30, you'll see an extract from one of the early shows coming up, which is all one specific question. I was asked by Richard Lovelock, who's in the live chat at the moment watching. Hi, Richard. He asked me some time back all about what colour space to use. So that was part of one of the live streams. It's now been repackaged as a video in its own right, and it's premiering tomorrow night. So if you didn't see it, you can watch it then on there. If you do find the shows helpful and you want to contribute to keeping them online and keeping me going, then I'd really appreciate it. Here's the way you can do it. I've got a Buy Me a Cuppa campaign going on. The link's there, buymeatea.com/Ian Butty. It's actually run by BuyMeACoffee, but I don't drink coffee, so I've had everything renamed to tea on it for the thing. And I do try and say thank you to everyone who's bought me a cuppa in a rather peculiar way, in that I'm putting names on mugs as I'm going through. And tonight's cuppa is brought courtesy of Bernard Robinson. So thank you, Bernard. I really appreciate this. Not only that, Bernard's also a member of my academy, which is where I've got lots of resources. I don't plug it too much on the live stream, perhaps I ought to, but a lot of things I give away on here, PDFs and tutorials and things like that, are always made available to my academy members. And there's a huge catalogue of stuff there, 50 odd inspiration sheets, there's videos, there's training courses, all sorts of things in there. And that's only £6 a month. So that if you don't want to buy me a cup of tea, consider joining the academy. You get lots and lots of stuff for doing that. And I'm really appreciative for those of you like Bernard who have joined the academy over the last year or so. So, just in case you don't know, and you've stumbled across this through YouTube, I have a Facebook group. That's the link to it. Go join that, because that's where we carry on with the conversation during the week. It's where I collect images for the feedback, and I do talk about various things on there, about what's going on, and we have challenges on there. We're currently in the middle of a rather exciting photo bingo challenge. Boy, is that getting cutthroat. Photos being posted at 1 minute past midnight and 2 minutes past midnight to try and be the winner of a particular line. And people are being really, really inventive with the images that they're creating. I've got to say, folks, you're blowing me away with some of those shots, because I did fear that people would just start going around and say, oh, that's one of those objects, click, and not think about it. But just about everyone is coming up with creative ways of photographing these subjects, which is what I want, because the whole point of this channel and the Facebook group is to try and help you improve with your photography. So do join, do get involved, and share your photos, get involved with the photo challenges, and you can find out what's coming up between both the things here. I have a newsletter. I've not been putting too much out with it recently, because I've been focusing my attention on the YouTube and on Facebook. But another one should be going out fairly soon on there, and that's the link to join up for it. So what have we got on the show tonight? Well, it's a feedback show, as I already mentioned. And one thing about the feedback show is I am giving priority on the feedback show to images which are sent through to this email address, feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. That's because when I get images from there, typically they are full resolution. That's the ideal thing, folks. You can even let me have raw images through there if you want, either via WeTransfer or by email. But because I've got a better quality image and I've got the shooting data, I can be a bit more specific with the feedback, and I can help you more. So I'm going to give priority to anything that comes through there. So if you want to make sure you get good feedback, send your images to that email address. So came through through that email address was Robin's. Oh, I spelt your name wrong, Robin. My apologies. Sorry on that. Robin did gave me the best images from 2020. It's something I spoke about a couple of weeks ago on the Sunday night live stream, challenged a few people to have a go at it, and Robin's one of them. I'm also going to look at snowscapes and snow images and posed portraits, because those are our themes in the Facebook group at the moment. Then I'll look at bingo challenge images. Those of you who've been taking part with that, I want to talk about some of those. And then finally, if time permits, I'll look at other Facebook posted images. And I don't always manage to get through all of those, but I do my best. But I'll pick out particular ones that I know I want to talk about on there. So that's the priority order as we go through your images. And somewhere in the middle of there, because I'll want a break from talking 10 to the dozen, I will share with you a Lightroom 2-minute tip. Now that will premiere on my Lightroom channel in 6 days' time. So you're getting it ahead of everybody else by tuning into the show on there. And of course, there's live Q&A. Now, looking at the live chat, What have we got in here? Richard wanting a reminder on how to buy my Lightroom presets. He keeps forgetting. Right, what I'll do is I'll put a link to that in the Facebook group. The reason why you can't see it properly, because it's, well, I'll tell you where else you can find it actually, Richard. If you look back to the live stream that's talking about Lightroom, there's a link in there, but it's not readily available on the website at the moment. It's there, it's just not linked to on anything because I'm still setting up all those sort of courses and things like that, and that one's really in beta at the moment. But I'll put the link in the Facebook group, and you can find it there. I think they're it's £5 or £6 for them. It's coming on for about 100 presets in Lightroom and it's a way of going through and applying certain effects to images in a logical way, taking you through the processing of how to set up images. But it's worth having a look at the live stream where I talk through them anyway on that. I have a question from John Barton, who says, actually, you can have a look at them yourself, the questions. Can you tell me what a DNG file is, as my camera supports JPEG and DNG? DNG is a fairly big topic on there. I think I've covered it on a live stream before, and or there may even be a video on my YouTube channel covering it. I'll look that up. If it's not there, I will cover it on Sunday live stream, because it's an important topic. So I want to deal with that one. So I'll do it on Sunday rather than now, because I want to just make sure I deal with everything in a logical order on that. I have various slides already for that talk. I have given the explanation about DNG so many times and in different places, I can't remember whether I've done it on the live stream or not, but I will do that if I haven't, and then I'll package it up into a video in its own right, and then I can just point people to it in the future. So how's that? Right, so moving on. Yeah, just talking about live Q&A, John's done exactly the right thing, put the question in the live chat, and I will deal with them. Some of them I'll deal with now, some I will defer to the Sunday night, where if it's like that one where I want to get the bullet points and the slides to make it work on there. If you are putting things in the chat, just remember there is a bit of a delay. As far as from your perspective, there's the point you are typing something in is about 30 seconds or so after I have said something or something has happened, because we have that built-in delay. It's part of how YouTube and live streaming works. So just be aware of that. So get your questions in quickly, in other words, on there. And if you're watching on the replay, you can email me at contactme@ians-studio.co.uk, and that's my general chatting email address, as opposed to feedback@, which is just for images. I don't check that. I just check that periodically, twice a week, when we've got the live streams coming up, to make sure there's nothing in there that I need to download. So that. Right, top 10 images from 2020. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Right, okay, Rick's just put something in. We'll have to copy paste, as links don't work in chat unless you're a host or admin here. Oh, well, I can sort that for you, Rick, just a minute. There you go, you're a moderator now, Rick, so you should be able to do that. Right, no getting out of it that way. Right, okay. I gave people a challenge a few weeks ago to find their top 10 images from 2020 and to let me have them, and I'll put them into a display and I'll talk about them, and we'll share them. So I'm doing, whilst people are still submitting them, I'm going to do one a week for the time being. And tonight I've got ones from Robin, and they are some absolute crackers. Talking about people I challenged, as he's currently watching, Mr. Richard Bradbury, sir, you were one of the people I challenged. I still challenge you to find your top 10 images from 2020. What are the best 10 that you created last year? I know it was a tough year, it was tough for all of us, but see if you can find your top 10. I'd love to do a slideshow of them and share them with people on there, because yours will be different to most of the people on here, because you have that focus on portraiture. I'm not expecting them all to be portraiture, but I know there'll be a big emphasis on that. So it'd be great if you can rise to the challenge. I've got another one for next week, but this week I've got Robin on there. Yeah. Rick going, who, what, where, how? Yeah. Man up, Rick, you can do it. You can find the images. Right, so, yeah, Robin's images. Let's have a look at them, and I'll be back after you've seen the slideshow. Right, thank you ever so much, Robin, for sharing those images with you. This is a really tough set for me to pick one or two to comment on and provide feedback on, because every single image here is a stunner, and I think they're absolutely great. I've got a comment about this one. I don't know how you managed to do that, to create a bubble with a hole in it on there, but that is absolutely, that's amazing on there. And looking at it, it's sharp, it's tack sharp. I'm presuming it's just as the bubble's bursting that it's just disintegrating, but it looks like a piece of glass on there. Very, very well done. I'm intrigued by the reflections as well with this. I'm guessing from those sort of spidery lines on it that you were in some form of, in a conservatory or something like that, because it looks like there's a wall behind you and these coming off. But yeah, that one is just mind-blowing on there. I rather like this one as well, with the flower within the raindrop on the flower. And I know, Robin, you do a lot of images using the crystal ball and magnifying glass and things like that, with reflections within reflections. And I think this is just another version of that technique, but what a great image. That there's so much going on here, and it's towards the rule of thirds on there, but we've got all these lines leading the eye into it, this lovely bokeh effect, the use of negative space behind on there. It just ticks all the boxes on that one, and again absolutely tack sharp as well with it. I think I like this one as well for the bokeh circles on it, the mushrooms and the light. I'm presuming this is in a wood somewhere with the light patches behind, giving that bokeh effect, and that light coming through the back of the mushrooms toadstools on there. Just a superb shot, and the framing works as well with this framing element at the bottom, the wood that it's on. So yeah, just absolutely tack sharp, incredible. And finally, I've got to talk about this one because oh, that's weird. It's cutting the bottom line off when I'm zoomed out. But anyway, this was a technique I talked about on the Christmas live stream, about having a box with speed light in it, so that you can have people looking into it and it lighting up. And Robin went away and used the technique to create this shot. I presume of her kids in there, but the expression on the faces is lovely, and that light coming up really works and sort of tells the Christmas story with the fun and the joy of opening presents on Christmas Day on there. So cracking image there. So at this point, before I go back to chat, I've only got one image this week that has come through my email, so I'm going to just deal with that now, which is, here we go. Oh, for some reason it's got them all selected. I need to take that off. No, there we go. Yeah, Gary sent in an image via feedback, and it's this one of, well, he's entitled it A Tudor Child. So let's go onto here. Right, let me just give some feedback on this one, Gary. I don't know whether you're watching live or not. Well, I know you'll catch it on the replay. Right, looking at the settings on here, it's obviously been done with available light, because it's saying that the flash did not fire on there. We've got center weighted average, so it's a fairly standard. He's made sure he's getting the exposure off the face on it, and a 200mm lens, fixed focal length, I think. Hang on. No, it's my favorite lens, the 70-200 f2.8. Really nice lens on there from Canon on there. No wonder it looks so good. And there we can see the light. Oh, that's interesting. What's the ISO on this? ISO, yeah, 640. So yeah, I would guess available light. I think that must be the window in the shot. Right. Okay. Couple of things. Lovely exposure, lovely lighting on it. There's just enough light around the face. Shadow on one side, light on the other. Works really nicely on there. I think there's a couple of things I would suggest, Gary. I do like the shot, and this is going to be in the context of pushing you to the next level with it. I'd just be a little bit more careful on the framing of this. There's just a couple of things. I think I would be tempted just to come out very slightly on the zoom. So instead of 200mm, I'd probably do 170, something like that. Just a little bit more, because it feels a little bit tight at the bottom for me. I'd like to see a little bit more towards the elbow on there, so that we've not got this cuff sitting on the frame there. Now, part of that you can deal with by tilting down, because there's a bit much the space at the top there. Because what you've got is you've got the eyes going through the centre, and I'd like to see the eyes just a little bit above centre, but by zooming out and not having quite as much space at the top and adding a bit at the bottom, you'd be able to achieve that, and I think that would be a nicer look with it on the image. The other thing that distracts me with it is down here. I don't know quite what it is, but it's just sort of pulling me into this sort of area here. So I would just get rid of that. Oh, where have you sampled from? No, why are you sampling there, Lightroom? Sample from down here. That's it. Just to get rid of that. But other than that, I think it's a lovely image. I think you've got good settings for it. You've done the right thing in terms of keeping the ISO as low as you can, but I am intrigued as to why you're shooting at f32 on there, because it definitely looks a much shallower depth of field than that. Or is it f3.2? Oh, it's f3.2. That's better. No, that makes sense then. I was looking down here, and I can't see the decimal point on there. I'll show you what I mean. You see here? Can you see a decimal point on that, folks? I can't. No decimal point there, but it is up here. So that all makes sense. No, I'm thinking that's a very shallow depth of field for f32. No, you've done the right thing. You've gone out to that. And actually, by resisting the temptation to go to f2.8, you've given yourself just that little bit more depth of field, so that to allow for any slight movement you might get. So those are my suggestions on that. It's a fairly in-depth one, because it was one that had been sent to feedback at on there. Right, let's have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been talking. So let me change. Oh, a few things on here. Right. Okay. Yeah, people saying fantastic shots, Robin. Amazing top 10 on there. Robin saying it was a conservatory. Just a fluke to catch it at that moment. Hey, it's not a fluke. It was very carefully planned on that. And Robin saying that the baby nearly grabbed the flash and nearly dropped it from the present. Whoops, that's unfortunate. Right, okay, so let's move back on here. Right, so that's no other questions come in chat on there. So let's have a look at the snowscape images in Lightroom. Let me just go over there and set that up. Which should be those. Right, okay, so oops. There we go. Right. Yep, here we go, the snow images. So let's start off with this one from John Barton. I'm going straight into the develop module. Right, John, I think you know what I'm going to say about this. Exposure compensation, it's underexposed. Go and have, I can't remember whether you were on for Sunday's live stream, but go and have a look at Sunday's live stream, and I go through and explain what's going on here, because that is really dark. Now, looking at the histogram, you are right up there, but that's the bright area in the sky. So this is one where if you've got that, you need to deal with it in post-production and just brighten it up a little bit on there. And you can see I've not blown anything out. A little bit of contrast might help with it as well. And again, the verticals aren't straight. So I'm going to use those presets we were talking about earlier. I'm going to just go through down to those, transform, and try and find the one that gets it closest. Upright. Whoa, no, not that. I think, yeah, auto. Now I need to just crop that in. There's something like that. Oh, a little bit higher. And that should be mostly straight now. There's still a little tilt on there, but it's a lot straighter than it was as a shot. So do something like that. I like the lead in of the rope. I'd have liked to have seen a camera position where this was more towards this corner, so it led in more that way. And you could have done that, just move the camera over a little bit. But those are the things that you need to concentrate on, John. And I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it, is I really want to encourage you to do your post-production before you submit the images to the Facebook group on there. I say that to everyone because these are things we've talked about a lot, but I wanted to just mention it on this one. I mean, if you want to see before and after, that's before and that's after, and you see the improvement that's made. I've not done a great deal with it. Those are simple things, and all the things I have done are possible through the likes of Snapseed. So think about doing that before you submit the images onto the Facebook group, because that way we can help you further with your photography by having images, instead of myself and others just posting the same comments. It's underexposed, the verticals need sorting out and things like that. So let's move on. Next shot, Terry, a snow-covered tree, the last vestiges of snow. Now, I think this was done as part of the bingo challenge, but I've pulled it into this section on there. Interesting shot. I like the balance between the bottom half and the top half with it, that we've got the splaying out there and at the top. Square crop probably works on there. It is sharp. I don't think it's your best work, Terry, to be honest. And I'm not sure what we can do really. So maybe the thing that could be done with this is, rather than going in as wide as that, would have been just to think about a tight detail on the tree. Maybe, I'm just trying to find an area. Maybe if you shot something like that, that's a little bit more interesting, because we've now got this strong diagonal going through there. Especially if you could, possibly difficult here, but if you could have controlled the depth of field to get the background out of focus with it, that would have made a more interesting shot on there. Another cracking image from Robin, these ice crystals in the garden. I like the black and white conversion on this. And now there was a comment, I think, in the Facebook group about saying, well, perhaps those should have been vertical. I disagree. I like the angles being off on it. So it's, yeah, I've never seen ice crystals like that. And that phrase alone tells me it's a good image. Because one of the things about photography that really, when you know you've got a good image, is when people look at it and go, I've never seen something quite like that before. I've never seen that subject from that point of view. And Robin submitted this as a worm's eye view image in the bingo contest challenge. And typically, a worm's eye view is shot at ground level looking upwards, is what it means. This is sort of ground level looking along, I think. But I'm still counting it as that. Yeah, really nice image. Nothing I'd want to change on there. And the strong diagonal that goes through it as well. All right, Peter. Right, with this one, the icicle, I actually quite like the starkness of the black, with the black and the blue, but it's definitely not straight. So you can see there with the lines. Let me go full screen. You can see the guideline here. That definitely needs straightening up because icicles are always straight. So there we go with something like that with it on there. So you have something like that, and that sort of kind of puts it on the third line as well. Now, because of the resolution of it, I can't tell whether it's tack sharp or not with that, but I would make that kind of change to it on there. John Bamber, right. Oh, this was some fell challenge or other, I seem to remember. And I really like the way the flash has picked out the snow in this image. And I like the sort of look of concentration on the fell walker, fell runner's face on there. The only thing I would say, John, with this is that bullseyeing the subject in the middle doesn't work for me. I'd like to have seen something, maybe lose a bit from that side, and then, we can't do it, but extend the frame more on this side, so that they're more on the 1/3 line. It's very slightly underexposed, but I'd perhaps give it just a touch more on there. Don't want to do too much, because it is a night shot with it, and we don't want to lose that that feel to it on there. So moving on, David, right? This back garden in the snow. One of the things David was saying about this was he tried a dark vignette and it didn't work, and that's possible. That sometimes happens with the snow scenes. If you've not got a particular point of focus on an image, then that would potentially cause the vignette not to, a dark vignette not to work with it. So he's tried the white vignette, which works better, he says. Having not seen the dark one, I can't comment properly on that. There is another type of vignette that you might want to think about. Now, you can't do it in Lightroom. You can only do it in Photoshop, and that is a blur vignette, which might have worked with this. I can't really show it you on this image because the white vignette's already on there and it would mask the effect of it. But basically what you do, and if people are interested in this, somebody remind me in the future about blur vignettes, and I'll do a proper demo on how you do them. Basically, you duplicate the layer, so you've got one on top of the other. You then do a Gaussian Gaussian blur on the top layer, you apply a mask and you start painting out the middle section with a very large soft brush. So the edges of the image are blurred, but the center section is sharp. And that kind of effect for a snow scene might work quite well. The other thing I would suggest with this, David, is it's a question to you. You'll know where I'm coming from on this. What's your subject? Well, there isn't really a point for the viewer to look at on that scene. What is the viewer meant to look at? Because I find as I look at it, my eyes darting all over. So it'd have been nice to try and find something in that scene that you could have as your point of focus, that the eye is going to be drawn to specifically, because I don't see any one item in there. Because the trick with an image is to try and find something where the eye starts off and it moves through the image. That's why lead-in lines are so powerful, because the eye is drawn through the image. It goes on a journey through your image. So that, I think, is a little bit lacking on that. So I'd be looking for something along those lines. Right, Peter, again, it was submitted as part of the bingo challenge, but I just want to point out something on here. It's a nice composition, nice snowy day. He'd done it for the sign on there. The reason I've included this is nothing to do with the sign, nothing to do with the snow, but to do with this. You've got a dirty sensor, mate. I can see several blotches up there, even on this low resolution image. So if I go over to the development module, I'm in the develop module, and I press the Q key, which is the equivalent to this, spot removal, I can quite easily get rid of them. But what you may not know is what this option down here does, called visualize spots. So if I tick that, you can now see where these three spots are, and the fourth one's showing up there. And we've got this slider which helps show them up. It's basically edge detection that's going on there. So now I can go over there, and there, come out of visualize spots, and lo and behold, they're all gone. Sorry, I should have done that full screen. Sorry, folks, but hopefully you could see it on the smaller version of the screen while I was doing with that. So that was the thing to watch there. You might need to get your camera sensor cleaned with that. I haven't got shooting data, but those spots will show up more at small apertures and on even surfaces like blue skies. That's why they normally show up on the sky on there. So just be aware of that. One way to work around it is to shoot at wide apertures, small f numbers, because they won't show up quite as much. Whoops. Another one from Robin, the tree. Not really got a lot to say about this one, Robin. It's yet another good shot from you. I like the composition of the tree on the 1/3 lines. I have to mention it's because of the location, Arley Hall, which I know quite well because I spent a day there. 2 days there actually as a TV extra in Cobra television series, which they used Arley Hall as to double for Checkers. So I spent a lot of time going through that entrance and sitting inside for about if I was on screen for 5 seconds, that would be about it. I was there for 2 days. For that, but yeah, it is a nice setup with a tree slightly off to one side. We've got this lead in to the hall from following the line of the balustrade on there. So ticks all the boxes. Well done, Robin, on that. John Bamber, again, another one of his snow ones. It's an Arctic hare taken at something at minus silly degrees centigrade, minus 30 or something like that, he said in the post. I think this is a lovely shot. I rather teased in the Facebook group, if you've ever seen the optical illusion of, is it a hare, is it a duck? And I just, I posted that and said, no, it's definitely a duck that you've photographed. No, it's an Arctic hare. It's a really good shot and absolutely tack sharp. Now, the interesting thing here is it's correctly exposed. Notice the histogram, exactly as I was saying on Sunday's live stream. Everything's over on the right hand side. I can't prove it from the EXIF data because I haven't got it, but I'm pretty sure John will have used exposure compensation to make sure the whites are right on there and to get that proper, the whites are white in the snow on there. So absolutely well done, John, with it. And I don't particularly object to it being bang in the middle. My preference would have been to have it slightly further over on the left-hand side and a little bit more on the scene on the right, just for it to have something to look into. But that's a nitpick. It really is a nitpick. It's a great shot. Well done with that. So moving on, I think. Yep, that's the last of the snow ones. So let me head back and see what's been going on in chat while I've been talking. So yeah, a few things have gone on. Right, apparently there's some buffering going on as well on there. Yeah, Peter saying he thought he'd got the icicle straight. No, you hadn't. Yeah. Yeah, he'd on there. Ah, right. Robin saying a member there. Yeah, yeah. I've actually been there twice. Both connections with filming. One, as I said, was Cobra when I was in that. The other, I was directing I was actually directing a sword fight for an amateur production of Singing in the Rain. Those of you who know Singing in the Rain, there's a silent movie section where there's a sword fight going on that they play in as part of it. And because I've done stage fighting, the director was a friend of mine and she asked me to come in and direct the sword fight for it. So both times I have been to Arley Hall has been in connection with filming. Anyway, that's an aside on there. Let me move on. And what Lightroom is telling me is get back to what PowerPoint is telling me is get back over to Lightroom and look at the portrait images now. So let me get that one set up. You can watch me set it up. What I do is I have them all in one folder, but I color code them, and up here I use different codes as I go through for the different sections I want. So green should be the next set that I want to look at. Yeah, all the portraiture ones. So let's start with this one from Dave Jones, one of his portraits. Right, again, because it's low resolution, David, I don't know whether you're watching tonight or on replay, whatever. I like the pose on it. The couple of things I would mention about this is just be very careful about your cropping with it. Really, you want to crop a little bit further down rather than directly on the bust line. You don't want your model's boobs just sitting on the bottom of the frame, basically. You want that just a little bit more of the waist, of the torso in there. And also the top is very, very close to the top line. and just be careful of being so close to a top line on or onto a frame with an image, because if that was ever going to be printed, your bleed would put those hands directly onto the onto the edge of the frame. So you just need that little bit more space on there with it. So that's the main things with it. It's a lovely, it is a soft image, but I think that's an intentional softness to it rather than out of focus. I'm a big fan of rim lighting in the studio. So for me, I'd like to have seen rim lights either side on there, but that's a personal thing. It's not necessarily your style, David, and it's a perfectly good image as it is. It's just, I would light it slightly differently on that. So move on. Right, Rick's images. I wanted to share these. Now, I know this was not taken at your studio. This was taken at an event with Pixapro that Rick had attended, and there was an opportunity to use some lights there. Now, I love the setup here, the setup shot on it, showing where the lights are. Basically, we've got a rim light at the back there. We've got one coming in from this side, acting as a light on the hat, and we've got this ring light effect. Now this is a ring light adapter. Now I've seen these, and I don't know how good they actually are. I've been a little bit dubious of them, but then I saw Rick's photo, which appears to give good ring lighting on there. So it might be a little bit hot on the cheeks with it, but that rim effect appears to have got lost on the back of the hat. I can only just see the edge of the hat on this side. I can't see it on this side as well. So again, as you appear to have got a rim light there, I'm just wondering why it's not showing up on the image. The other thing I would say about this is I can't make my mind up whether I like ring flash catch lights in the eyes or not. I'm still not convinced by them. Part of me goes, yeah, it's interesting. It does make me look at the image more. I'm wondering whether this is slightly tight, and the other thing I tend to prefer myself is the shoulders to be even on an image. Again, those of you who know Rick and myself, when we've done events together, you'll know we will always approach things from completely different directions. And just because I say I don't like it on Rick's image, it's just because my style is different to Rick's. It doesn't mean that his is wrong, it just means mine is different, and that's all. So I'd like to see the shoulders even on there. So I'd like to see a bit more space over on this side. I just feel she's a little bit too far over on the shot with that on there. Phil, I don't know whether you're in the chat or not tonight. Thank you for submitting your portrait images. I know you said you don't do much with portraits, but I just want to comment about some of these because you've got some cracking shots here. I love this. I'm trying to work out where on earth the light is for it. It must be just out of shot at the top, but I really like this negative space. It breaks a rule. And there's one of the rules is you do not shoot up people's noses. This is shooting up somebody's nose and managing to get it to work as an intriguing shot. There's just enough light on the background to separate the hoodie from the background on there. There's a great black and white conversion. We've got a good range of tones in there, and I love this negative space. What is the person looking up to? What's up there? It's an image that's asking questions. So really well done on that one. Moving on. This one, I would just urge a little bit of caution in two areas on this shot. First is just be careful about how close the nose is to the cheek, because one of the things you always want to avoid with when you are posing a portrait, which is what we'll be talking about on Sunday, is making sure that the nose doesn't cut the cheek line, and this is getting dangerously close to it. So just be careful with that. I would have asked her just to turn her head very slightly more towards camera to avoid that on there. It doesn't need much, it just needs a little bit more space on there. The other thing is, looking at the histogram, it's slightly underexposed. So if I go into the develop module, and I would say, and now I suspect this is a style thing from you, Phil, rather than anything else, but for me, I'd like to see it just a little bit more like that. Personally, I would be tempted to up the contrast a bit, but I know your style is a very smooth style, so I'm not going to play with your contrast because I know that that's your style, but I think it works better for just upping that by what, 2/3 of a stop on there, so we can see the face a little bit better. I'm judging it off the histogram. There's still scope further there, but I don't want to go any further on that. And I think that's what I would like to do with there. This next one, again, nice intriguing shot. I like the pose. I like the way he's looking into the camera. I'd like to see you move a little bit closer to the wall yourself, so that instead of these windows going through the chap's back, that he's actually positioned just here in relation to him. So along this sort of line, I go in. So he'd be more along here. I don't know. I doubt I can do this, but just to show you where. No, I can't, because it wouldn't work in here. I could do it in Photoshop, just to move him over a little bit. But yeah, I would just move him over to this sort of area by changing your position relative to your subject on there, on that. And again, this one, I'm beginning to think whether this is a style thing, but I think it's a bit underexposed. I like the concept behind it, hiding behind the wall, but I think it just needs a bit more light in there. And I am going to say it needs a bit more contrast on it as well with that. I think it needs something along those lines. Again, it's a personal thing. I know your style is very different to mine. And I am reluctant to add that bit of contrast, but that's how I would do it for what it's worth on there with it. But yeah, I like the concept on that. With that, I think it's done with available light. I'm just trying to see. Oh, is there a bounce board going on there? Looking in the eyes, there might be. Not sure. There's obviously a rectangle of some description in there. I think that might just be something bouncing light in on that. If it is, well done. Oh, now I've moved in, I've just noticed something else. Just be a little bit careful with these flyaway hairs. That can be sorted relatively easy in Photoshop, less easy in here. In fact, I'm going to go into Photoshop and show you the edit on this. Edit a copy, right. Because this is a useful little technique. I think I've probably demoed this before, but it's worth going through again. Oh, I chose the wrong option. Edit in Photoshop. I want copy with Lightroom adjustments on there. I suspect, Phil, you already know this technique, but this is therefore for the benefit of others who don't. And I'm just going to zoom right in on that hair so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get clone brush. Where's my clone brush? Oh, there it is. Clone stamp. And I'm going to change the mode on it to lighten. Because the hair is dark and everything else is bright, by doing that, if I now hit the, I'll go full screen, if I now hit Alt on an area near to it and just say lighten, the only pixels which are going to be affected are the dark ones. So I can now go along with the knowledge I'm only affecting the darker pixels on there. And I may have to resample a few times as I go through just to do it. But by doing it this way, I should then be able to go through there. And you see how I've not lost the texture of the skin as I go through this. Whoops. Not one. That one is struggling because it's the same sort of, very much the same as what's around it on here. So if I go there. Right, so we've got more or less got rid of it there. I probably want to have another go at that area if I got time. That's not taking it for some reason. That should go down, but so we've got rid of most of it, but using that sort of technique allows you to target those sort of adjustments to where the hair is. And if I had a bit more time, I could do a better job on that. So back over to Lightroom, and we can see it's gone from the image on there. So those are the little things I would do on that. Moving on. Yep, that. Oh no. Again, Phil had submitted this one of the dog, black dog on a black background, sort of thing. I've seen better work from you, Phil, to be perfectly honest, on there. What is good about it and is worthy of comment is it shows the that he's made sure that the exposure keeps the dog as black on the black background. But I don't think the background's doing the image many favours on that. Peter, thank you for submitting this one. This one I'd say is slightly overexposed on it. I'm just going to bring it down very slightly on there. I don't know whether there must be some sort of flash going on because I can see a catch light and a reflection on there. Now, it's not the time to go into it. It's something that I'll probably cover as the days get warmer and as we get out of lockdown, because it needs to be done outside. It needs a subject to be able to talk about how you overpower the sun. What I would do with this is I would set my exposure such that the flash and the ambient light had 1 or 2 stops different, so that would darken the background and keep the subject correctly illuminated, so that you've got that contrast in there, would be how I would do it, because the background's a bit bright and it is kind of drawing my eye away on the image. Oops. Right. And that is the full set of portrait ones. So let's go and have a look at chat, see what's been going on. Ooh. Well, I've been in here. Right, okay. Absolutely nothing else in chat. Oh, well. Right, okay. So moving on then. I need a break, I need a breather, so I'm going to share with you a 2-minute tip, which will be premiering on my Lightroom channel in 6 days' time. So enjoy, I'll be back with you in a little over 2 minutes. Hello, welcome to a new 2-minute tutorial. This time we're going to look at Lightroom's local adjustment brush and the mask overlays. Hello, welcome to In Studio. I'm Ian Butterfield. I'm sure you're already familiar with Lightroom's local adjustment brush, and I'm sure you've already come across the problems that sometimes it's just a little tricky to see the areas that you're painting the adjustments on. So let's go over into Lightroom and I'll show you a few techniques which will make this a little bit easier for you. Here we've got a red post box, and I'm going to assume that what we want to do is increase the saturation and reduce the highlights. So I need to go into the local adjustment brush tool, which is K, or using the option up on the menu bar there. And if I just reset everything in here, I'm going to bring the highlights down, bring the saturation up. Now, if I want to paint onto the holly here, you can't really see much of a change with that in many of these areas. And even on the red post box, you can start to see a little bit on there, but not a huge amount with it. Fortunately, there is a way to make it possible to see where we've painted the adjustments on, and that's using the mask overlay. You can enable the mask overlay by clicking the checkbox down here, or by using the keystroke O to toggle it on and off. Now, you'll see quite clearly that that overlay works nicely on the holly, where I can see the red areas that I'm painting on, extend a bit of that. But over on the red post box, that's really quite tricky to see it on there. Fortunately, Lightroom gives us the option to change the colour of that overlay. And the way to do that is with a keystroke, and it's Shift O. And that will toggle us through the different colours. Green, white, black, which is actually quite tricky to see on this particular image, and back to red again. Now I find that I tend to toggle between the red, which is the default, and green, which I find does show up probably better than most colours on most images. So there you have it. The ability to put on an overlay to see where you're painting, and the ability to change the colour of it. Put it on, use the keystroke O, change the colour of it, it's Shift O. Hope you found this 2-minute tip useful. I'll see you in the next one. Right, okay, after that little breather, let's carry on. And I'm going. Time's moving against us. It's turning into a long one, this. So I'm going to go through the other images fairly quickly. These are ones that are effectively off topic for tonight, but I want to try and give some feedback on some of them in here. So right, let's see by heading over to Lightroom what we've got. Right, here we go. Right, these are all ones which were submitted as part of the bingo challenge that's going on in the group at the moment. So let's have a look. This one from Fiery Dawn. Sorry, I've mangled your name on there. One that, I like the image. It's a little bit of street art. And it reminded me of J.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu things. I don't know whether you were intending to get a quirky angle with it or not, but I would like to see that corrected. And I'm just going to do it guided because let's see, that's a vertical there. That's a vertical there. That corrects it to something like that. And then if I say constrain crop, that's not too bad actually on there. But I think doing that sort of thing with it would help the image. So I am going to have to go through these fairly quickly. Lovely image from Neil there, strawberry and the reflection. Very well done on that. Nicely exposed. I don't know whether you were using available light. I suspect flash on there, and it's come out really well on that. As has Bernard's shot of some salad. Now, what makes this work partly is the fact that there's moisture on the tomatoes. And it's an old trick with food photography, just get those little droplets of water on there, either with a sprayer or if you've got a bowl of water, put your hand in and then just sprinkle it that way, and that gives the same sort of effect, and that works nicely. I would have been tempted just to move this one tomato closer in there and then perhaps come down. I don't like the fact, again, one of my pet hates, I think items just touching the frame. I'd like to see us doing a better crop into the frame, like that, or all the way out on it. So I'd have moved that in personally and then probably brought the crop into about there. But that's now, the tomato's now too close, which is why I say it needs to move in on that. Linda, interesting shadow on there. Like to see a bit more of the shadow at the top of the frame on it. And one thing I'd consider with this is just the shadow and try and keep the bike out of it, so that you just get that that shadow effect. I think just concentrating on that section of it from a slightly different angle would work well. Carol, nice shot. I think you've lit from behind to do this. Just to be aware, with something like this, the pattern on the material can be a little bit distracting. One thing, I don't know how large this is. I think that would be small enough to fit on just a sheet of A3 white paper, or buy some white card and bend it so that you've got something, hold it in place with a clamp and some weights, so you get a smooth, clean background on there, but that works well. Amanda, I don't know whether this is a teddy you've placed or whether it was already there on that, but I would tend, because there's things like this are distracting behind, I would have been tempted just to frame it a lot tighter on the bear, to be honest, with this one. Maybe keep the name in there and do something more like that with it. It's slightly soft. That might just be because of the resolution on there. I do like this one on subject of bears though, from Janice. Well, two bears and a sheep, I think, on that. Nicely done. Nice use of a vignette on there as well, with the darkened edges, and it's one where the vignette's not too in your face on it, which is what you should be aiming for with vignettes. It's the sort of thing where you hardly notice it's there. That one I can see fairly obviously, but using a vignette just pulls you into the middle of the image. Well done. David had a go at this one after my feedback on silhouettes last Wednesday, and I think you've got a better image for it this time. The paper, we're seeing a lot of the texture on the paper. The other thing is we're seeing a bit of colour on the paper. I can see it's not true black and white. One thing you might want to do is just convert to monochrome. Just do it as simple as that, because there isn't really much on there. If you do want the colour, you can always bring it back on your version of Lightroom, because you've got an old version. You've said it will be split toning, and it's the same sort of idea, but you can then just sort of bring in a coloured effect that way. You've got perhaps a bit more control over it, with those sort of controls on there. So you might want to consider that. A little bit underexposed, this one, Linda. Again, looking at the histogram, not much at the top, whereas that is white. So again, just needs bringing up a little bit. Now, one of the things you said, you weren't sure whether the lid should be laid down or not. I'd have been tempted to lay the lid down, possibly on this side of the board, with it so that we see the edge of the lid and the top. What I would want to avoid is it just sitting on the edge of the frame, as I have said a few times on there. The other thing, white balance, we've got a bit of white card, we can get that. Oh, it's a bit too there. I would then warm it up very slightly onto that. So we end up with that. Moving on. John, the smoke, me talking about this looking like a figure looking over her shoulder in the smoke. I think, right, the techniques worked really well. For those who want to know how to create this type of image, look through the live, through the list of live streams. There's one I did live smoke images on there, and it explains the whole technique on that. But that's a good one, a good way of doing it. It's just a shame the smoke's right over on one edge. I wonder whether, and this is, I've not tried this, whether just a little bit of a tightening up of it might help a little bit. Well, don't know. Yeah, something like that. I think just that tad tighter is what it needs. Neil, yeah, this was mostly white was the theme, and he came up with this with part of the E missing. What I would do, again, I'd like a little bit more space over there, but I would have made it a bit more obvious on there and had a bit more space on that side. Ooh. That's by accident, but yeah, a little bit brighter on the exposure as well, I think helps with that. That might be a little bit too far. Take it down to that on there. Peter, cracking image here of the ring and the shadow on there. It's a classic shot. I think a lot of photographers have done it, but this is a good execution of it. The one thing I would suggest with this, which adds an extra dimension to it, is, I don't know how well you know your Bible, but try and find a verse which talks about love to go with the page when you do this, or on that, rather than ones about mourning for his mother and things like that, or hypocritical mockers. That would be my only suggestion. If you do a search online for love Bible verses, you'll find plenty on there for that. Nice reflection, Laura, in the Ferrero Rocher, you spoilers ambassador. And I've got to highlight this one. Great deliberate camera blur on here, deliberate camera motion, where he's zoomed in on an illuminated keyboard to get this effect. Really like that one. This one's a little bit underexposed. We discussed this online, but just to show you, I would say that's probably what you want on there with the exposure, Peter. This one, Richard, with Laura's hand acting as forming the shadow of basically a Far Side cartoon bird in the background on there. I think it's a lovely concept, nicely executed on there. I think you've probably got the white balance, what it needs to be. I'm just curious to see what happens if I do correct it. No, I like your version better on there, so well done on that. Peter, look what I can see, another dust spot. Have we got any more on there? Yep, you've got that one down there. So we've got that one. Yeah, nice image. I like the fact that it's on the diagonal. I think will it take being in a little bit tighter? I think it might. Into something like that. Yeah, I think it can take a little bit more of a crop on that one, on there. Bob, I think I mentioned this online. I think the shadows just need raising slightly for the foreground, but I would have waited for this person to be over here, or better still, while she was over here heading towards the tree, because that then gives you the lead through and in on there. What we can do with this is on luminance, I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to just brighten up the greens a little bit, give them a bit more light on there, and again bring up the saturation a little bit on there. Right, also the shadow, then as I bring those shadows up, it's starting to look a little bit brighter day on there, and maybe I'm going to use one of my presets for this, the sky ones. Where are we? Sky enhance, let's have a look. And come down to about number 3 on there, just to enhance the sky a little bit. There's an odd edge here as well. I suspect that's a vertical correction that hasn't been cropped properly, so we'll just do that. But there we go. I would do something like that with that one, Peter. Bob, sorry Bob, on that. Peter Stanford, I like this. I do not like the other half of the image, the backside of a cow on there. I wonder whether if you could have moved round to this side, you could have got a slightly better angle without having the backside of a cow in there. David, nice image here. Let's go full screen so people can appreciate this one. The idea, it was under the topic of full moon. I think you made exactly the right decision. For once, having that central offset by the Earth on one side and the vastness of space on the other works. The one thing I wonder about is whether you could have aligned the line of focus between the moon and the continent of Africa. And I don't know whether that would have been better or not. It does work with it, with the Earth out of focus, but I just wonder whether there's a different option there with it. So, whoops. James, don't know whether you're watching, but cracking shot of the Lego bonsai tree, and I really like the lighting of the background. What James appears to have done here is he's got an image on a bit of white card, probably raised up, then under that onto a white background, he's got another light, presumably with a gel on it, to get this light, the coloured lighting on there. And that works really well to give this colour and to give this horizon line through there. Absolutely spot on, well done. A little underexposed, I'm afraid, Neil, on that. Just bring it up a little bit and then bring those highlights which are blowing out down to do that on there. Nice idea for rock around the clock. Bernard, I hope you're watching this. I commented about this one. A couple of things I'd like to see about this is, well, first of all, correct the white balance on there. And the next thing would be, rather than just homing straight in on the cat, I'd like to see a bit more context to this. So what I would do is, instead of shooting straight on at it, I'd step to the side and shoot along. So that this is the point of focus, but then it goes out of focus along the door, along presumably the wall, going into the distance. And if you've got a shallow depth of field, it could be quite interesting, just focusing on the face of it and letting the rest gradually go out of focus into a blur as you go along the wall with it. So I would do that. It's slightly underexposed. We can see the whites are right up against the edge there. So I can bring that up. Maybe need a bit of extra contrast to do it on there with that sort of thing. Another great one from Peter, but unfortunately, it's either out of focus or camera shake on that. I don't know what's gone on with it because I haven't got the shooting data. It's a nice shot. It's a shame for those problems. Peter Saltiel, I love the idea of the shadow composition. I don't like the fact that that section's blown out. And I'm not sure what we can do about it. If you were shooting in RAW, it might be possible to recover the highlights. It's not possible on the JPEG at all. There's just nothing there to recover with it. Or just try and get the light, or shoot from a slightly different angle so that the light's not reflecting back into the camera off that section. But then that affects the shadow. It's a difficult one to do. David, love the concept of this. The theme was bridge, and instead of going for the transportation type of bridge, he's gone for the card game type. I'd like to see it a little bit brighter exposure on there, and I know it was a long exposure, several seconds to achieve that with it, but yeah, it was only about a third of a stop out. Which is pretty good going for very long exposures. So well done with that. I love the angle, the fact we're looking over the shoulder of these two bears. We've got the others on there, along with the PG Tips monkey. Nice idea, Peter, with the sweets. Just one on the third line, a different colour, and keeping the background all one colour. That works really well. Linda, this sunset that I know you're attempting to follow the instructions. A couple of things to say about it. What's happened here is you've probably shot at the right time, but the camera's overexposed. So if I bring that down, now we can see that's probably what you were trying to get, that darker blue sky in there. And that's because, as I said on Sunday, about the camera's trying to make everything mid-grey, and it's seeing all this dark area here, and it's trying to lighten it up, and it's ended up with that so experiment with your exposure times. So I would do these sort of shots, the longer exposures manually. I play around with the exposure to get the blue sky, trying different exposure times. You've also got a dust bunny on your sensor there, so let's get rid of that one for you. So that would be there. Oh, two more. Again, just to say, Richard, nice choice of subject with the red telephone box on there. Works nicely. Straight on, works good. This is one of those where it does work bang in the middle. Why does it work in the middle? Because we've got a reflection going on. Effectively, the left-hand side of the image mirrors the right-hand side. So that is the time when putting a subject in the middle will work. So that has worked. The flower, John, again, just works nicely. Good exposure. I like the fact that the crown of it, the center of it, is on your 1/3 line. So absolutely spot on with that as well. So that takes me to the end of those. Let me head over to the chat. See what's been going on. And yeah, what have we got? Peter had a speed light level with it. It's camera left, and I can't remember which image that was referring to on there. Yep. Okay, interestings, etc. Right, let's move on. I've gone on far too long on there. So finally, the general images posted to Facebook this week. Let's have a look what we have got. So let me get Lightroom back up. Change my selection. I've not got too many of these to talk about, but there's a couple I want to give a little bit more emphasis to than others. So here we go. Right, John, nice shot. There's meant to be a building at dusk. Again, I think the same as I said about that sunset one. It's slightly overexposed for that, just to get that effect. Again, it's just about 2/3 of a stop. I like the blurring on the train. I'd like to have seen a slightly longer exposure just to blur it slightly more than you have done on there with it. Because I think that would have worked a little bit better. I know it's very tricky to get that, but I would have just done that very, very slightly longer. Maybe just double your shutter speed on there with it. Ruskin, this is the one I chose as the image of the week on there. Really like this. Love the shallow depth of field on it. I've only got the low resolution version, so I can't say whether it's pin sharp. I suspect it is, but really nice. And this is what I'm saying about having your subject on the third line and using negative space for your subject to look into. A really good example of this, of how it's been done. So well done, Ruskin, on that. There's not much more I can add to that. Absolutely spot on. Donata, I love the expression on this chap's face. It's just a shame about this hand coming across it. And I don't know that there's much we could do, but whether a slightly different crop would allow us to lose that hand and concentrate on the face. Maybe something like that might work. I don't know, because the image is all about his expression on that. John, we've talked about this one online, and there's suggestions of crops. The one I wanted to suggest is a really tight ground crop on it, something like that. Because I think that's quite a powerful look to it along there. And I think at this point I'm supposed to go dum de dum 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 de dum 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 dum, the old James Bond theme with it. But yeah, nice idea. It's just, I'll tell you what the shame is. This is taken with your little FIMO camera, and the resolution's not there with it. You can see how blotchy it is in the sky in there. Such a shame that a lot of your best images are being taken with a camera that's really not got a lens and sensor that can do your subjects justice. So I really want to encourage you to use your big camera, your DSLR, more than this little pocket camera. I know the best camera is the one you've got with you, but the level that you're at, you're creating some great images. You're being let down a little bit now by the technology. You're being constrained by it. Get on and get shooting with your larger camera on there. John, this is interesting. This is an odd one. I can't quite work out what you've done with it, because it's darkened around the branches. It almost looks like ink drops in water. That sort of effect. I like it, but how you've achieved it and what it is, I don't know. I know it's a tree, but how you've got the effect, I really don't know. Other than to say, well done, it works. Another one from Donata. I think, unfortunately, your shutter speed was probably a bit slow on that, because you've got camera shake on there with it. You can see it very clearly there, and the arms blurred as well. You need a faster shutter speed for that to work, and just be careful about cropping people's feet off at the bottom there. It's better to go for a crop that's a little bit higher up like that with it on there. Oops. Right, now I want to spend a little bit of time on this one there for Aruna. I'm assuming Aruna, because the name ends in an A, is female. Forgive me if I am wrong on there. Aruna has been posting a few images to the group. I just want to talk about this one. It feels as though it's got a vignette on it. It hasn't. Just a couple of things to be aware of, a couple of suggestions for this. I like, it's a lovely street shot. I'm just going to go in so people can see full screen on it. A couple of things I would be careful of. Be careful of your crop at the top, because the bus is a bit of a distraction, especially with it being right up against the top there. And the person there, I'd be wondering whether they're about to wander off and take the shot then. The other thing that's happening here is you're looking down on your subject, and what I would suggest is try and come down to their head level, their eye level. I know the head's hidden, but come down to their head level when you shoot, rather than looking down on them. But also try and get the feet of the bench in, rather than losing them from down here, because that's all part of the scene. So I would say, if you came down to head level, you could almost afford to crop at that height, but with the rest of it in, but shot lower down than you actually were. One of the things which makes a lot of difference with photographs is stop shooting at your own eye level. Start shooting at floor level, or getting onto something so you're looking down properly. You're changing that position. Now, I talked about this in I think about the third or fourth live stream I ever did, and I'm afraid all that information, the videos on that, is now exclusive to my Academy members, so I can't share the link to that one with you. But I'll no doubt come back to it at some point, about change your point of view, rather than from being your eye view, go down lower or go up much higher and shoot down, varying that height you shoot from is good. So those are a few things I would suggest on there. Donata, another interesting image here. I like the fact that the guy's right on the edge of it. It feels as though he's at the edge of the world, almost a bit of an outcast sort of thing. It's slightly underexposed. I think just a bit more light into it. I think this is one that might benefit from going black and white as well, as I think that works nicely with it as a black and white image on there. And have we got any more? Magnifying glass, the equivalent of those crystal ball type images, which I quite like this. I like the idea that everything out there is as opposed. Now, I'll tell you a little trick with this one. First thing I would do with it is I would, for the sake of time, I'm going to flip it rather than rotate it. I would turn it round so that that's the right way up through there. The other thing I would then do is I would actually hold the magnifying glass, instead of from down below here, I deliberately bend my arm up and bring it down, so that once I'd flipped it, it looks like the magnifying glass is held from below in the natural position. So I would cheat it that way round to create the image within the image, the right way up, but fool the brain of anyone looking to make them think they're holding it from down below, is one of the things I would do on there. Another John Barton one, like this one, John. Just want to correct your verticals on it again, on here. Where are they? Yeah. So we'd end up with that. and I think I'm wondering about a colour grade on this actually. I think my blue sepia one works nicely on that, and then possibly a little bit of a vignette to it. So vignette 2 on there just draws you into it with something like that on that one. And then is that yeah, another one of John's turning up, right? Again, with this, I'm not going to go through it entirely. I would like to see the point of focus on the bird rather than on the buildings in the background on there, because that's the thing that's most interest to me. So focus on the bird, track the bird. And now this is probably difficult with your little mini FIMO camera. This is again where you really need to be working with your main camera to get these sort of images and to get them working. So get down on the floor with it and get your focus on the bird with that. And I think, yes, that's it. So final look at what's in chat, and we'll be right. Yeah, John's saying that the FIMI camera is a darn sight easier to count. Yeah, it is, but the other one gives you a darn sight better images. So there you go. It's what's important to you. John is saying the clarity heavily reduced in Lightroom for the tree silhouette. Ah, yes, that will give the effect round the outside on that. So, right, well, no more questions in there. So time for me to out. First of all, thank you everyone for submitting images. Really appreciate them and seeing them. Thank you for watching and letting me loose on your images. If you are new to this, please hit that subscribe button. Please comment if you're watching on the replay, and please hit the like button. We've got 12 concurrent viewers and only 9 likes. And once again, my thanks to those of you who've been buying me cups of tea, and I saw one come in during the show. You know who you are. Thank you very much for that. Well, it wasn't one, it was 3 actually. So thank you very much. Cheers and cheers. And a special cheers to Bernard for today's cup of tea. Thank you very much, Bernard. And then on Sunday, we are back on Sunday at 7:30. And it's the first of my sessions on posing people. I'm going to go through that. I'm not going to do it 2 consecutive weeks because there's other things I want to cover. I'll come back to it in a couple of weeks' time for part 2. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to pose people. Both this time I'm going to do it in some general terms. So it's not just about models in the studio. It's about photographing your nearest and dearest as well and getting good images of them. And just to whet your appetite, a little story. One of the tips I'm going to give you is one I gave on a cruise, and afterwards I had a chap come up to me to thank me for that tip. He said in 20 or 30 years of marriage, following that tip, for the first time ever, he's taken a photograph of his wife that his wife likes. So that's how good the tips are that I'm going to be sharing with you on Sunday. So hope to see you then. Next Wednesday, again, we'll do another feedback session similar tonight. My emphasis will be on any portrait images that you've submitted. Remember, priority goes to those which are emailed through to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. So please submit your images there. Those will get priority and get the best feedback. And until next time, thank you for watching, and keep making great photos. Bye for now.